Please welcome NASSP Executive Director, JoAnn Bartoletti.
Good morning, and good morning, and welcome to the 2018 National Principals Conference. Your presence here testifies to your commitment to NASSP's vision of a great leader in every school, committed to the success of each student. Your presence here also attests to your desire for self-improvement and school improvement. The progress your schools make continues to show. This year's Grad Nation report reveals graduation rates at an all-time high of 84.1%, reflecting the dedication you and your teachers bring to each student each day. NASSP has an ambitious vision of great leaders in every school, committed to empowering each student to lead their own learning and to fulfilling every ounce of human potential available to us as school leaders. We pursue that vision passionately because our nation's progress and our collective prosperity depend on our students' ability to lead us through a complicated future rife with challenges we cannot yet even define. Sadly, we have lost far too many pieces of our future to senseless gun violence in our schools. Events of the past year rocked our communities and threw an unwanted spotlight on peacefully anonymous towns like Aztec, New Mexico, Santa Fe, Texas, and Parkland, Florida. The tragic events in these towns and others have reignited a debate that continues to rage at every level of government. But there's a secondary and a salutary storyline that deserves some attention. It's the role that our students have played in bringing school safety to public consciousness. We have really been impressed with the students from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Regardless of where you stand on the gun control issue, it's hard to deny their persistence, their commitment, and their eloquence. These young advocates did not just suddenly hatch on February 14th, the day of their school shooting. As the students describe it, their experiences in various classes, coupled with participation in debate team and other activities, facilitated by adults who valued them and believed in them, helped shape them and build their confidence. Their voices are loud and strong because of their public schools. Their public schools taught them crucial knowledge and skills and then empowered them to use their knowledge and skills in the realest of real-world settings. We need to repeat that loud enough for everybody to hear back in Washington. But just as important, those students should remind us of our shared call to cultivate student voice. To help with that reminder, Stoneman Douglas Principal Ty Thompson shared with many of you earlier today what they do in Parkland, Florida to help students find and amplify their voices. And to paraphrase Principal Warmenhall from Aztec High School, our students' bravery, students stepping out of their comfort zones to advocate for a cause so much bigger than they are, inspires the principal to do the same. NASSP's interest in student voice is nearly as old as the organization itself. As the home of the National Honor Societies and National Student Council, we're talking about student empowerment long before it was a trend. And to underscore the point, NASSP will soon release a new edition of our guide for cultivating student voice called Raising Student Voice and Participation, or RSVP. We've also identified models of student voice to join our Student Leadership Advisory Committee, a committee of students who inform NASSP programming and who also participate in NASSP advocacy activities. You'll have the opportunity to meet some of those students in the Connection Center here at the conference, where they will make sure you know how to use our new advocacy action tool and that you are up to date on NASSP's current advocacy agenda. In 2013, NASSP, along with NAESP and 4 other organizations, authored the Framework for Safe and Successful Schools. The framework, which has released a new series of resources, represents the consensus on effective school safety policies and practices that have been endorsed by more than 100 school-based organizations. Joining the original author group is the National PTA, who add the critical parent voice. We know schools remain the safest place for kids, but it is imperative that we as educators and the policymakers stay focused on evidence-based, comprehensive school efforts. This means balancing physical safety and psychological safety. Congress did get something right. Much of the framework was incorporated in the reauthorization of the Every Student Succeeds Act, including the need for relevant staffing and services in Title IV, Part A. As you all know and live every day, that call to cultivate student voice applies to each student in your school. You live that call every day. I marvel at your ability to propel students past their obstacles of poverty, food insecurity, poor health, personal trauma, and on and on. While much of the country sees your special needs kids, your immigrant kids, and your LGBT kids as problems to be solved, you see their unique giftedness. That is the promise of public education. Unfortunately, a federal government that should reward your efforts chooses instead to invalidate them. Public education no longer has an ally at the U.S. Department of Education, and I don't mean just because of its misguided push to privatize education and commoditize our children, though that would be enough to make the case. More than that, Betsy DeVos's Department of Education has rejected its commitment to educational equity. From rescinding transgender rights guidance to summarily dismissing numerous civil rights cases without review, to endorsing local leaders who call ICE on students in flagrant violation of federal law, to Title IX decisions that restrict the rights of rape victims and LGBT students, to the most recent threat to rescind discipline guidance that NASSP helped create to protect minority students, this administration sends a clear message to our most vulnerable kids. The message being sent is, we have no intention of defending your rights. But NASSP has a message to the Secretary of Education that is equally clear. The message? Madam Secretary, your department must recommit to student equity. You have been very clear about what your department will not do. Now, with no more protections left to you to withdraw, you're obliged to show us what you will do to protect our most vulnerable students. The equity challenges our students face are too pervasive to ignore. Your canned responses of, well, the states should consider it, or whatever the problem, private school vouchers will fix it, are insufficient to the point of insulting. Our kids deserve better. Our leaders deserve better. Our country is embroiled in what some have called a cold civil war, with two sides polarized not just by their political views, but by contempt and disrespect for one another. Our students are increasingly becoming the victims in this war as each side demonizes the other. Some of you have heard me use this quote before, but I'll say it again. Whether your ancestors came over on the Mayflower, on a slave ship, or on a rowboat across the Rio Grande, we're all in the same boat now. All of our fates are linked, and our only course is to build human potential, because the purpose of NASSP is to develop school leaders to shape the future of American education by promising great leaders in every school committed to the success of each, not some, student. You, the leaders of the nation's schools, are the first line of defense against policies that offend us personally and fly in the face of what we believe as educators. So here is my call to action to you while you're here at this conference or back in your schools. It's time. It's time for you to stand up and support all that is right and good about public education. It's time for you to speak up for the young people in your care who can't speak up for themselves, and to step up by engaging in and leading actions that support your schools. Keep fighting the good fight and remain ever vigilant so that no student is ever marginalized, and know that NASSP has your back. But to have your back, we need your voice, and we want to make it as easy as possible for you to use it. Thanks to the new interactive NASSP Policy and Advocacy Center, we don't have to wait to make our voices heard. So let's do it right now. With all of us gathered in the room, let's send a message loud and clear to Congress and Secretary DeVos. Take out your phones right now and text NPC 18 to 52886. When you receive the text, follow the link to quickly send an email, a tweet, or a Facebook post to your legislative officials with just a few simple clicks. Again, text NPC 18 to 52886 right now. We also encourage all of you to visit our advocacy team in the Connection Center during the conference to learn more about how you can take action for your schools and for your students. Thank you all for all you do to build our nation's future. And thank you for allowing NASSP to play a part in the work you do each day. Have a wonderful National Principals Conference 18. Thank you.